Okay, so we are on our way to our little reading spot. We're going to be continuing our reading series here, but we get a chance to chat in the car, so it's always nice. I'm going to tell you a bit about what I'm doing right now, what I'm working on today. So today I need to record one or two course modules for my community over on school. And then this morning I've just been working on, actually this morning I finished editing an ad I just shot for the community, trying to bring more members in. And I think it turned out really well. Maybe I can show it here in the video. Just we'll cut here and then I'll be back in a sec. But the main part of my day today was I'm starting to develop what I call the MVP, or minimum viable product, for a new software as a service. But I don't know if I want to call it that yet. It's going to be incredibly gamified, almost like a video game. I'm not going to talk too much about the idea, but it's for beginning entrepreneurs or even experienced entrepreneurs, and it's going to be sort of a game. And that's why I don't know if I want to call it a SaaS yet, a software as a service, because I need to figure out how to walk the tightrope between video game and actual useful software as a service that provides value to our users. So that's yet to be determined. But I started the development process this morning. It's going good. I'm having tons of ideas. Really looking forward to getting the MVP done, and then potentially looking to put together a team or find some funding so I can pay some people to work for me as a team. It's really cool. I'll talk more about it later on the channel here, but yeah, that's what I'm doing today. One or two course modules I need to record later. I finished editing an ad, which I'm going to roll out probably. Actually, that's probably what I'm going to do tonight, later on, and then now I'm going on a nice trail walk, and we're going to film some reading of my book as well. I'm still waiting for my ID cards in the mail. The Canada Post strike is done now, so I should be getting my my license and my health card in the mail soon, so I can actually start the publication process on my book. But we'll see what happens. But we're almost there. And if the sun is really bright right now, it should calm down in a sec once I've turned out of the gaze of it, or the camera's out of the gaze of it. Yeah, there we go. It's bright. The snow, the whiteness of the snow up here really brightens up the sun. And you can really notice it now that we're getting farther into the winter season. We have arrived. Okay. So I've been thinking a lot about passions, pursuing your passions, pursuing what you really want in life, pursuing what you really enjoy. And I came across sort of a paradox that I wanted to share with you guys. I don't know what you would call it, the paradox of enjoyment or paradox of passion. But do you know how when you're doing something you really like, whether it's a hobby or even work that you really enjoy, and time seems to fly by, you sort of lose track of time? And that's where the paradox comes in. It's time is the most valuable currency you have. No amount of money can be exchanged for time. So when we pursue something we really like and we're losing track of time, and maybe sometimes lose a whole day or a few hours, we're kind of unconscious doing so, we're losing that valuable currency. And I don't know if this is really a paradox, but it's interesting to think about how the things we enjoy most seem to spend the most of our most valuable currency, which is time. Expanding on that further, sorry about the hood. Sorry for being all spooky scary, but I forgot a hat. So hood protects the ears. But expanding upon that paradox further, I'm sure you've had an experience talking to someone who was just on vacation, or they were traveling, or experiencing new experiences, learning new things about different cultures. And the one common thing they'll tell you is, take it in because it flies by. Time will fly by when you're out there traveling, when you're out there experiencing new experiences. So it's another example of how it's almost the more you get out there, the more you learn, the more you enjoy yourself, the more you push towards things that you like, things that give you feelings of true bliss, true pleasure, true purpose, the more you're exchanging the currency of time. I don't know, maybe I'm just rambling, but think about it. Here's a little exercise. Slow down a bit and just look at these trees. Very nice. Maybe cold. It's nice out here. We'll ramble a bit more before we get to our reading spot, so you can be a bit more personal with me rather than just reading. But we'll talk more about time and paradoxes of time, etc. But I think one of the main issues with all the distractions we have nowadays, phones, social media, shows, technology mostly, is that it's another thing that takes away our perception of time, except you're not getting anything out of it. You're not receiving any value. I think sometimes, especially on, like right now on this walk here, I know I'm talking to you guys, but I'm trying to take in some of the silence, really just listen, look, embrace the senses I was given, and just slow down the brain, and kind of de-stress and chat with you guys a bit. But remember, sometimes it's okay to slow down, even if you're maybe pursuing a new business or pursuing big goals. Sometimes you gotta slow down, you gotta think, you gotta just listen and see things around you. See nature, see your family, see what's around you as the beautiful people and beautiful nature they are. Made it. Oh. It's pretty cold outside today, so I don't know how long my hands and ears are gonna last. Should have brought gloves, but I wasn't being a good Canadian and forgot them. Whew, okay, let's cool this off a bit. Oh, welcome. So today we're continuing that chapter, the really long chapter psychology of starting. In the past two parts, we got through the first step, which is the introduction chapter. Then we started part one. We got through chapter one of part one, which is the fear of the unknown. And then we're still on chapter two of part one, the psychology of starting. And we're going to continue that. Just going to warm up my hands a bit. Sometimes it's not good to breathe into your hands like this because of the moisture, but the moisture can get cold. If you're in really freezing temperatures, it can freeze up your hands, but it's not that cold today. Okay, so let's continue reading and see how long I can last. Hopefully, we'll actually finish this chapter today. Goodness. Want to supercharge your belief in yourself? Go look up people who've already done what you're aiming for. I guarantee you'll find at least one who started in a much tougher spot than you and still made it. That's one of our greatest gifts as humans, the ability to endure. Let's go on a bit of a sidetrack, but also not a sidetrack, if you know what I mean. So humans are a lot scarier than you think. We are pretty vulnerable creatures when it comes to being prey. We don't have thick skin, fur, we are pretty weak physically, etc. When it comes to hunting, though, we are scary as hell. We have long-range weapons and weapons in general. We can sneak pretty well. We can strategize. But the scariest of all for our prey is our endurance. Humans actually have the best endurance out of all animals on land. No, we can't run the fastest, but we are the most persistent. Even more sidetrack. Picture this. A deer being hunted by a guy with a spear on a wide open plain. The deer takes off, sprints for a mile, and looks back. What does it see? The guy is still coming. Same slow, steady jog. Once the man is within 100 meters, the deer runs again, it looks back, and there in the distance is the man with the spear, still jogging at the same pace towards the deer. This goes on for a couple more times, and now the deer is exhausted. It takes one final sprint farther than all the others, and it stops without any energy left. The deer takes one final glance at where the man was coming from, and there he is, still running at the same pace towards the deer. This is the power of human ability to endure and persist. As long as we keep our pace forward, nothing can escape. No dream or goal is beyond our grasp. So no matter what situation you may be in, there's always someone in a worse situation than you are who is also striving towards the same goal. Make sure to meet them at the top. That's why researching those who have already completed the goals you have can help build self-efficacy. They can do it. If they can do it, so can you. Now, there's not much else I can cover when it comes to overcoming those pesky psychological barriers, which makes starting so hard. But if there's one more thing I can add, it's this. The biggest hurdle in anything new you try is taking action. When you haven't taken action, all that is separating you from your goals is your own brain. Our brain is simultaneously working for and against us. It wants to keep us safe, so when a potential new experience comes and there's a small amount of uncertainty, it tries to stop us from doing so. The weird thing is that humans adapt and get used to things so quickly. Once you actually take action, it's like a flip switches and your brain is like, well, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Think back to when ChatGPT first went viral. People were convinced it was the start of some AI apocalypse. Fast forward a few months, and now we barely talk about it. That's human adaptability for you. We take something groundbreaking, and before you know it, we're bored of it. Just take a moment to think about it. There are countless examples of humans adapting incredibly fast to new things. Take your human adaptability and put it towards trying something new. I know your brain is probably putting up a brick wall to try and stop you from starting something new, but you can break it down just by taking that first step. Iteration. Iteration is one of the biggest parts of trying new things. Honestly, finding your thing is like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Sometimes it sticks,
and sometimes you're just left with a mess on the floor. But the more spaghetti you throw, the more likely you are to find what works. Think of high school as one long iteration process. You tried out all these different subjects, math, history, gym, class, and eventually you found something to stick with. Or you didn't. Maybe you've liked a few things, or maybe you just decided, yeah, none of these are my vibe. Either way, you are testing, sampling, and learning what works for you. And that's basically life. We're constantly running this iteration loop, trying things, seeing what clicks, and moving on when it doesn't. The more we stay curious and open to learning new things, the more we speed up that process. It's like getting reps in the gym. The more you put yourself out there, the stronger your sense of what fits becomes. For me, curiosity found its outlet in hobbies. Hobbies are fascinating because they're where we often stumble upon real joy and passion. I think some of the happiest people on this planet are the ones who started a hobby just for fun, realized they were great at it, and then somehow made it their career. That, to me, is the ultimate example of successful iteration. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that your hobby has to turn into a full-on career path. For a lot of people, mixing business with pleasure can turn something they love into just another chore. Once money comes into play, it's easy to lose the magic. But if you're able to make a living doing the thing you enjoy most, and if you can keep yourself from falling into the trap of being money driven, then you've hit the jackpot. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're doing what you love, but not letting the chase for money turn your passion into just another grind. So just stay curious, keep iterating, and see where your hobbies lead. You might just stumble onto your next big thing. Practical strategies for taking the first step. Trying something new can feel like standing at the base of a mountain with no idea how to reach the top, but it doesn't have to be that overwhelming. Here are some practical strategies to help you take that first step without feeling like you're taking on the whole mountain at once. The 5-minute rule. The 5-minute rule is simple but powerful. You have to commit to doing something for just 5 minutes. That's it. If after the 5 minutes you feel like stopping, go ahead. The magic of this rule is that most of the time you'll keep going beyond those 5 minutes because the hardest part, starting, is behind you. This rule is like the engine for your iteration process. It helps filter out the things that aren't a good fit without investing hours into something that isn't for you. If you don't like it after 5 minutes, cool, move on. But if you find even a little spark of interest, maybe you'll keep going for an hour or more. It's the perfect way to test the waters without diving in headfirst. Habit stacking. One of the easiest ways to add a new activity to your routine is through habit stacking. This is where you link the new habit you're trying to a habit you already have in place. For example, if you want to start meditating but struggle to find time, stack it into an existing habit like brushing your teeth. Once you've brushed your teeth, meditate for a few minutes. It's about building the new on top of the familiar. For entrepreneurs, managing a new schedule can feel overwhelming. Maybe you already have certain habits built into your daily routine, like making coffee in the morning. Stack your business tasks onto that routine by reviewing your goals or answering emails right after you make your coffee. For me, when I switched from scrolling through YouTube in the mornings to answering messages, it was a game changer. I stacked that habit right into my routine. Now it feels as natural as pouring my coffee. Of course, some ventures like starting a business might require a complete overhaul of your existing habits. In those cases, you'll need to evaluate which habits need to go and which ones will propel you forward. This can feel uncomfortable, but that's where growth happens. Environmental design. Your environment plays a huge role in how successful you are at sticking to new habits. Environmental design is about optimizing your space to reduce distractions and make it easier to focus on what you're trying to do. Let's say your goal is to read more. How can you change your environment to make reading more enjoyable and likely to happen? Maybe you set up a cozy reading nook with great lighting, keep your book within arm's reach, and cut out distractions like your phone. By making your space inviting, you'll naturally want to spend more time there. When I'm working on something important, like writing this book, I design my environment to be distraction-free. Right now, I'm in my office with the blinds closed because staring out the window is my kryptonite. I've got my noise-canceling earmuffs on, playing white noise. My phone is far enough away that I can't mindlessly reach for it. And of course, I've got my coffee right next to me. Here's a quick selfie. Yes, I know I look ridiculously cool with these earmuffs on, but hey, it works. I don't know if you can see that. It's move it up and down so you get in frame. I'm also just going to check what's going on here. Make sure we're still good. Okay. My rear end is melting the snow, and I'm getting almost frozen to the seat here. But we're good. Let's continue. The point is, how you design your environment is entirely up to you. What works for me might not work for you, but if you're serious about starting something new, take a look around. What can you change to make that first step a little easier? Wrapping up, this chapter packed in a lot, everything from battling inertia and overcoming mental barriers to diving into motivational psychology and practical strategies to take that all-important first step. It's a lot to process, but that's okay. Starting anything new is never simple. Everyone's journey in life looks different. What worked for me might not work for you, and that's totally fine. The beauty of life is that it's built on individual experiences, and the perspective I'm sharing with you here is just mine. For some of you, I hope this book flips a switch and gets you fired up. For others, maybe it's a slow burn or even a snooze fest, and that's okay too. We're all striving for our own versions of success. There's no one size fits all. What matters most is that you give yourself the chance to try. Take what works for you, leave the rest, and remember, starting is the hardest part, but once you do, the path will reveal itself. Keep going, because the only thing standing between you and that new thing you're chasing is the first step. That's the end of that chapter. I'm just going to quickly check how long this next chapter is. Let's see if we can finish it. We'll probably finish it. My rear end is getting a bit cold though. Chapter 3, Stories of Struggle. Here we go, next chapter. This one's all about the real stuff. We're diving into stories of struggle, of those first moments when things didn't go as planned. These are the personal anecdotes, the real life experiences that remind us that struggle isn't a roadblock, it's part of the journey. You know those moments when you're knee deep in something new and everything feels like it's going wrong? Yeah, we've all been there. The stories in this chapter aren't about people who had it all figured out from the start. They're about people who hit walls, stumbled, doubted themselves, but kept going. They're the ones who learned that struggle is just a sign that you're onto something that matters. We all have struggles, big, small, loud, quiet. Let's talk about them. Story 1, Sarah's leap into entrepreneurship. Sarah had always dreamed of starting her own business. It was one of those one-day ideas, something she'd put off while working her 9-to-5. But after a few too many late nights fantasizing about being her own boss, she took the leap. She quit her corporate job, threw herself into a new venture, she quit her corporate job, threw herself into her new venture, a boutique online clothing store, and thought, this is it. But it wasn't as glamorous as she imagined. The first few months were nothing short of brutal. Orders trickled in slowly, her marketing efforts fell flat, and the website she painstakingly built crashed more times than she could count. Every morning felt like a battle. Her biggest struggle, self-doubt. Every time something went wrong, Sarah started to question whether she was cut out for this. Maybe I'm just not an entrepreneur, she would think. That inner voice was relentless. But then something changed. She stopped seeing those setbacks as failures and started seeing them as learning curves. Every website crash taught her something new about troubleshooting. Every marketing flop was an opportunity to adjust her approach. She embraced discomfort, took small, actionable steps every day, and slowly started seeing progress. 2 years later, Sarah's store is thriving. Looking back, she realizes that the struggle wasn't a sign to quit. It was a signal that she was pushing her boundaries. The fear, the doubt, they're a part of the success. Story 2, Mike's fitness transformation. Mike had been out of shape for years. I'm just going to walk around while I say this next part. He wasn't really a gym guy, never had been, but after hitting a personal low, feeling exhausted, unmotivated, he decided it was time to change. He signed up for a local gym membership and went in on day one with the determination of someone who is ready to change their life. Reality hit him hard. His first workout was humiliating. He couldn't keep up with the treadmill, had no idea how to use the machines, and felt like everyone was watching him struggle. What am I doing here, he thought. half limping back to the locker room after 20 minutes. He could have quit. Honestly, most people would have, but Mike didn't. Instead, he gave himself permission to suck at it. Everyone's got to start somewhere, he told himself. So he went back again. Slowly, he began to improve. It wasn't overnight. In fact, it was months of small victories, adding up an extra 5 pounds here, running for an extra minute there. Mike learned to embrace the suck. He realized that the pain wasn't a sign of weakness, it was a sign of progress. 1 year later, he's in the best shape of his life. The real victory wasn't the weight he lost or the muscle he gained. It was that he stuck with it when he wanted to quit the most. Story 3, Lisa's struggle with learning a new skill. Lisa had always wanted to learn to play guitar. She'd watch YouTube videos of her favorite artists and fantasize about playing those same songs herself, but there was one problem. Lisa didn't think she had the talent. She tried before only to get frustrated when her fingers wouldn't cooperate. The chords sounded like a dying cat. One day she decided to give it another shot. This time she set a rule. 5 minutes of practice a day, no more, no less. It was her way of tricking herself into sticking with it. 5 minutes felt doable. At first it was rough, every chord sounded off, her fingers hurt, and she was convinced she'd never get it. But she stuck to the rule. Day after day, 5 minutes. Some days she hated it, some days she lost track of time and played for 30 minutes without realizing it. Slowly, her fingers began to cooperate, and the chords didn't sound so awful. It took a full year of those 5-minute sessions before she felt comfortable calling herself a guitarist. But looking back, Lisa doesn't remember the frustration as much as she remembers the little wins. The first time she strummed a clean chord, the first time she recognized the song she was playing, those moments of struggle made the breakthroughs that much sweeter. We're going to stop there, and I'll chat a bit on our way back to the car. But I really like this chapter we're diving into, and I really liked the end to that psychology of starting chapter. But let's go back to the car and I'll chat a bit on our way back. It's cold. I might have to put the hood up again, but we're making it through. So what can we take out of what we read about in the chapters today? I think that talked a lot about struggle and pushing through psychological barriers and some stories of struggle. And I think it's important, if you are watching this right now and you maybe you're starting something new, the book's called Trying New Things. If you're trying anything new, whether starting a new business or you're trying a new skill, starting a new hobby, choosing a new career path, anything new, struggle is going to be part of it. You're going to reach hurdles of all sorts, and you just have to keep pushing. I don't know what else to say. There are certain strategies you can use, like we looked at today, 5-minute rule, environmental design. But if you're in a spot right now, maybe you've already started your venture into trying something new, and you're struggling, you're reaching a lot of hurdles, it's not how you imagined. Sometimes, like we also talked about today, you have to tap into your human endurance. You have to chase that deer for miles and miles until you finally get the catch, until you successfully complete the hunt. You just keep running, keep pushing towards it, endure. Eventually, you'll reap the rewards. But I hope you enjoyed this video we did today. A little bit different, lots more chatting, but I'll see you next week.